Sorry for my voice in this one. I've been sick all week, with Saturday perhaps being the worst day of them all. So, Fatekeeper. This wasn't a game I'd even thought about checking out. I didn't even know it existed until I started seeing videos spring up telling me just how good it was and how much I was missing out on. But when I realized the Gothic remake wasn't going to release here in Australia until 3 AM on Saturday the 6th of June, which not only ruined my plans for a Friday night stream, thank fuck too, with a pounding headache and a sore throat, I don't think all the coffee in the world would have been able to help me. But at 11 AUD, at least at the time of this recording on June the 7th, 2026, there was nothing stopping me from having a good go and offering up my thoughts. Just FYI, the price will rise to 18 AUD in about a fortnight or so. A few things to note. Fatekeeper is currently in early access, so that $11 point of entry is a bloody steal, since this will eventually give you full access to the complete experience. The early access release promises to give you roughly 2 hours of content. Now, I've seen some content creators claim to squeeze about 5 hours of playtime out of it, with some saying 90 minutes. I landed squarely in the middle at about 3.4 hours. Lastly, and most importantly, Fatekeeper was developed by 13 people. That's it. The team at Paraglacial is composed of only 13 developers. So everything I say, be it positive or constructive, needs to be framed with that information in mind. Once again, just to hammer it home, Fatekeeper is a game developed by 13 passionate devs that currently costs less than 2 coffees that I bought this morning. Big shout out to Blanco Murray, by the way. So what did I think? Did I have fun? Absolutely. Are there problems? Yes, but that's what early access is all for. Right off the bat and straight down silly mid-off, Paraglacial have created one of the best looking games I've seen in recent memory. Of course, graphics aren't everything. Art direction should always trump sheer visual power, but when you play a game that leaves you with your jaw on the floor, you can't help but admire it. Those mountain peaks off in the distance and that lake really reminded me of my time in Whistler, especially that giant stone statue. Fatekeeper had me reminiscing about drinking a carton of beer while floating down Emerald Lake. A testament to the power of artists and their capabilities. It's truly remarkable just what 13 people can create when given the right opportunity. Every video I've seen discussing Fatekeeper always states that it's a modern day Dark Messiah. Now, I've never played Dark Messiah, but I have watched The Life of Brian, and I can tell you right now that Fatekeeper has more in common with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than Monty Python. We play as a druid who has a mystical, potentially demonic talking rat as our guide, who also instructs us as we traverse different dimensions, I think, with our ultimate goal of saving the world and hopefully stopping a great evil while we're at it. To do that, we'll need to slash, burn, freeze, and most importantly, kick our way to victory. There isn't any character customization at launch, and I've seen nothing to suggest there will be at full release. So if you don't enjoy playing as a big, burly, gruff man, then perhaps this isn't the game for you. But at least that angry Starfield guy will love it, surely to God. Customization comes from your loadout and how you play your druid, despite melee being an absolute must. A nice little touch is that the equipment will auto-equip if there's an empty slot. You also have access to 4 spells: fire, ice, wind, and telekinesis. The latter, so far, I've used mostly for puzzle solving or finding secrets, like this 2-handed sword I found in the first area of the game, a sword I kept for the remainder of my playtime. Just a small editor's note, as I'm reviewing my footage that I captured, honestly half of it, and more than half, 2/3 of it, I can't even use it. It's completely unwatchable. I'm going to talk about performance in a little bit, but just so you know, I can't show you any footage of me kicking goblins off ledges, despite how fun it was, simply because it's going at about maybe 5 frames per second. Anyway, on to kicking. Trust me, it's fun. Thanks, guys. Kicking. Well, kicking is where I had the most fun. The game tells you it's for breaking an enemy's guard. Horseshit. What it's really for is booting goblins off ledges. When it came to the meat and potatoes of combat, I relied heavily on my fireball spell, which I found a little odd despite how much I enjoyed it, as it would home in on enemies. This could be a setting, but I didn't explore it enough to find out. Visually, it produced this incredible, this lovely arc as it found its mark, which was always fun to watch. but it meant that when I wanted to light up oil slicks on the floor, it would completely swerve out of the way. The first person combat is a little finicky but fluid despite the slight jank. The controls were responsive and the death animations for the bosses were fantastic, all 3 of them. But I experienced this persistent issue where my mouse would drift when I'd be running or trying to swing my camera around. On some occasions, the camera would just move by itself. Although not a gigantic issue in combat, there's one problem that is far more, problematic. It was a different story when it came to traversing the environment, with mission progression often tied to jump puzzles and hidden ledges. Having my mouse suddenly move on its own was pretty annoying to say the very least. This happened a few times, about 5 or 6, where I would just jump and die. It wouldn't have been a big deal if it wasn't for the lack of autosaves. Supposedly, Fatekeeper does have autosave, but when I died and loaded up my most recent save, it would always be my last manual save, which meant losing 10 to 20 minutes of progress. From what I can tell, there's also no quick save options, and look, it makes sense. If your goal is to pay homage to a game from yesteryear, but we live in an age where people have precious little time to play games, so even limiting quick saves to 1 or 2 slots would be a huge help. Another huge help would be fixing the panning controls on the skill tree. You have to use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out, but the point at which you zoom in and out of isn't based on where your mouse is pointing. It's really hard to explain. But this was my second biggest gripe with Fatekeeper, particularly when the skill tree is massive. Speaking of skill tree, I was hoping to craft my way into my usual battle mage build, but unfortunately, it's not as free-forming as, say, Tainted Grail. Instead, it reminds me more of Path of Exile. When you first level up, you have to choose your skill pathway. I chose to start off with magic, thinking that next time I level up, I could take a point in melee, but no, I was locked into the magic skill line. Eventually, when I've leveled up enough with the full release, I could potentially snake my way around, maybe, but for now I'm stuck speccing into a fire magic branch. There's also a lot of destructible assets to engage with during combat, like breaking down support beams to let loose some logs or wooden scaffolding to collapse onto enemies. Some really fun mechanics that I never used because in the heat of the moment, I always forgot. I should mention that I finished Fatekeeper's current early access at level 13. Right, now comes the bad news. Fatekeeper, at least for me, ran terribly, and yes, remember, early access. Performance was perfectly acceptable in the beginning. It was fine for the most part, despite some tinkering I needed to do because there was some slight screen tearing. But when I died for the first time, and for whatever reason, this absolutely fucked the game for me for the entire rest of my playthrough. I messed around in the settings, toggled VSync on and off, capped the frame rate to 60, reduced the settings from ultra to high, tried all the anti-aliasing options, allowed the game to detect the optimal settings for my rig, a combination of everything. I restarted my computer and a fresh install, all failed to fix the issue. This happened about a third of the way through, and I only persevered because, again, this game costs $11.16 AUD and was made by 13 people. Besides, if I could survive Baldur's Gate 3 early access on day 1, I could survive this. The performance did more than just hamper the combat experience. Even though I could barely understand where was what, it really muted the atmosphere of some of the more creepier areas. Granted, that would have happened anyway, as the admittedly beautiful guitar chords play in the background no matter the location. Creepy sewer where you think something will jump out of the darkness. Here, now imagine you're having a mojito by the beach. In all seriousness, I love the score. It was just a little bit out of place in some areas. A few other noteworthy quality of life features: stamina regen is very fast, like fucking fast. Enemies don't respawn when you reach a campfire to save, although it's purely a save point, your health and mana don't refill. Using a skill point after you level up doesn't require the use of a campfire either. You can do it on the fly, so you can feel the impact of your decisions immediately, and you level up at a very consistent and fun pace. The last little thing I found slightly dissatisfying was the loot. There really isn't any outside the gear you find while exploring, and unfortunately, because of the abysmal performance, I really didn't want to spend any more time than necessary. I get why basic enemies don't drop anything, but surely something from the bosses wouldn't be a disservice to the classic game you're paying homage to. Because this is early access, the devs are taking feedback, so if you do plan on picking up Fatekeeper, and I strongly suggest you do, make sure you include your feedback. That's the whole point of early access, but please keep it respectful and constructive. Managing expectations is something even the strongest dev teams and passionate players struggle to do. I think it's really incredible what such a small team has already done here and what small teams industry-wide have accomplished lately, and I really look forward to following Paraglacial and the development of Fatekeeper. Best of luck, guys. You have a great thing on your hands here. Thank you so much for watching. Have you played Fatekeeper? What do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every second you spend here on this channel, and have a lovely day. Hooroo.